My name is Cholimon. Today I'll talk about tides and how the moon play a big role in them. First of all, what are tides? Tides are simple to understand. They are regular rise and fall of the ocean surface. They happens because of the gravitational pull of the moon and to a lesser extent the sun. Now, the cooler part, tides are super predictable. Most coasts have two high tides and two low tide every day. But how does the moon make this happen? First, let's talk about the moon gravity. High tide happens on the side of the Earth facing the moon. Because of that, where the pull is strongest. But here the twist. There are also high tide on the opposite side of the Earth, caused by the planet's movement and centrifugal force. Between these both, we get low tide. Now, there are spatial interaction between the moon, the sun, and the earth that change the strength of this tide. Spring tide is this stronger tide when the sun, the moon, and the earth alight. And neap tide is this a weaker tide when the sun and the moon form a right angle. Next, the moons keep Earth's axial stable at 23.5 degrees. This stability helps maintain consistent seasons and prevent extreme climate change. Next, the moon's pull creates frictions that slow Earth's rotation over time. Days are longer by around 2 million seconds every century. Next, tide does dot sorry, tide don't just shape the oceans; they also influence life on Earth. For example, they have historically shaped the rhythm of marine life, from when the animal breed to when they feed, and even the Earth's crust feels the moon pulls, contributing to minor tectonic activities. Finally, the relationship between Earth and the moon even impacts our orbit around the sun. Over thousands of the years, this play a part in the cycle that drive ice age. Before I wrap up, let me quickly share the three main types of tides. First, semi-eternal tides. This is a two high tide and two low tide of about the same size each day. Second, diurnal tide. This is a one high tide and one low tide per day. Lastly, mixed tide. Is it a two high tide and two low tides, but it's different size? Thank you.
So let's move on to the mechanics of and science of tides in gravitational forces. So the tides we've seen on Earth are caused by the gravitational pull of the moon and the balancing effects of the centrifugal force. The moon's gravity pulls on everything on Earth, but it has a stronger effects on water because the water is fluid and can be moved easily. The side of the Earth that faces the moon experiences the greatest gravitational pull, which draws water toward and create a bulge. And on the opposite side of the Earth, something different happens. Due to the moon's gravity is weaker on the far side because it is farther away. Here in the water is left behind as the Earth itself is pulled slightly toward the moon. And now let's talk about the centrifugal force. The Earth and the Moon orbit a common center of a mass called the barycenter, which is slightly below the Earth's surface. This orbit generates centrifugal force that pushes water outward, especially on the far side of the Earth. This force balances the gravitational pull of the Moon and maintain the second tidal bulge. So in simple terms, we have two forces at play, which is the gravitational pull and the centrifugal force. So moving on to the impact of weather condition on tides. The tides are not just influenced by the celestial forces, local weather, and the atmospheric conditions also play a crucial role. One major factor is atmospheric pressure, where the high pressure system develop over an area, and they can push down the ocean surface, leading to lower than normal tides, often called inverse tide. And conversely, low pressure system like those in storms can cause water levels to rise higher than usual. And the wind is another important factor. Strong winds blowing toward the shore can pile up the water and temporarily raise the height of tides. Similarly, to winds blowing away from the shore, it can lower the tides also. Um, and the storms, especially the hurricanes, can have a dramatic impact on tides through the storm surges. And these surges occur when intense wind and low pressure combine, forcing large volume of water to the shore. This can result in the tides several feet higher than normal and often causing severe flooding. Moving on to the moon's long-term impact on the Earth's tide. The moon's influence on tides is not static. It is changing over time, and these changes have long-term impact on Earth. One key factor is the tidal friction, where the gravitational interaction between the Earth and the Moon slows down the Earth's rotation slightly over time. As a result, the length of a day is gradually increasing about 1.7 milliseconds per century. At the same time, the Moon is moving further away from Earth by about 3.8 centimeters per year. As the Moon drifts away, its gravitational pull on Earth weakens, which means that the distant future's tide will be less pronounced. This gradual change has implications for coastal ecosystem and could even alter the way ocean currents distribute heat across the planet. And historically, the moon's influence has been much stronger. By the billions of years ago, when the moon was closer, the tides were also far larger, and the faster rotation of Earth caused days to be much shorter. And these conditions, it helps shape the Earth climate and ecosystems. Moving on to the moon's role in shaping global ocean currents. So we often think that the tides are simply as the rise and fall of water near the shore, but the moon's influence it also far into the open ocean, which subtly shaping global currents. As tidal forces cause water to bounce and shift, they also interact with Earth's rotation and geography to create a vast underwater waves called the internal tides. And these internal tides is invisible from surface, propagate through the depths of the ocean, mixing cold, nutrient-rich water from the deep with warmer surface. This mixing is essential for regulating Earth's climate as it helps to distribute the heat and nutrients across the planet. For example, in regions like the Hawaiian Ridge, internal tides are powerful enough to influence major ocean currents, such as the Pacific Current. Without the moon driving these tidal forces, our ocean would be less dynamic, which potentially disrupting the delicate balance of the heat and the nutrients that sustain the marine life and the influence weather patterns worldwide. So let's talk about how the moon creates a unique tidal patterns. The moon's gravitational pull doesn't create a uniform tidal effects on Earth, on everywhere on Earth. Instead, the tides form different patterns depending on several factors such as the shape of the coastline, the depth of the ocean, and how the Earth's winds. Some places on Earth it also face an incredibly dramatic tides, while the others have much more smaller variations. For example, the Bay of Fundy that located between Canada and the US is known for having the highest tide in the world. Here, the difference between high and low tide can exceed 50 feet. This is because the shape of the bay is perfectly suited for amplifying the tidal forces. The narrow funnel-like shape of the bay funnels the water in, causing the tide to rise higher as it enters. On the other hand, in places like the Mediterranean Sea, the tide are much smaller with the change in water levels often only a few inches to a foot due to the fact that the Mediterranean has a much smaller enclosed shape. The tides are restricted and less amplified. In these cases, the moon's gravitational pull doesn't have the same expansive area to work with, making the tides less noticeable.
Right. So now that we learn about the scientific aspects of the tides, let's learn about its impact on marine life and ecosystems. So tides play a crucial role in shaping marine ecosystems, particularly in the intertidal zone, which is the area between high and low tide. So this area will be periodically submerged and exposed, and the organisms that live there must adapt to survive both underwater and in, while also having to endure the force of crashing waves. So, for instance, sand crabs will burrow not only to avoid danger, but to also follow the tides so that they can maintain their position at an ideal depth in the moist sand. Uh, some more benefits from tides on marine life and ecosystems would be its nutrient distributions, where it can circulate nutrients and oxygen throughout the water column, which helps marine plants and animals to grow and stay healthy. It also helps with genetic diversity by helping to disperse larvae and juvenile organisms, which promotes genetic diversity and population replenishment. And maybe the most important impact of it all is creating tide pools, because tide pools help organisms that have not adapted to being exposed to air for a long period of time. So during low tide, you might see all kinds of sea creatures, including starfishes, sea cucumbers, or even fishes and octopuses. So now that we've looked at its importance on marine life and ecosystems, let's look at its importance for us humans. So tides are vital for a lot of human activities because they directly influence a lot of our industries and environment. For example, fishing and aquaculture, they will affect the movement and behavior of fish and other marine species, helping fishermen to predict the best time and location to catch each type of fish. For coastal aquaculture operations, they also often rely on tidal flows to provide a steady supply of oxygen and nutrients to farm species. We also use tidal energy as a source of sustainable power source. Technologies like tidal barrages and underwater turbines can harness the predictable movement of tides to generate electricity. They're also more reliable and has minimal environmental impact compared to fossil fuels. We also use them for navigation and shipping. because they influence the water levels. So by studying them, we can allow our ships to navigate safely through shallow harbors and estuaries. Activities like surfing or sailing or like coastal tourism also depend on tidal patterns so that officials can ensure optimal conditions and safety to the people. And of course, they also help in flushing out pollutants and replenishing nutrients. Uh, One of the most popular example would be mangrove trees because they act as buffers against storms and rising sea levels. Alright, so our final topic would be to learn about the extreme tidal phenomenons. So these usually refer to unusually high, low, or otherwise remarkable tidal events due to natural forces such as celestial alignments, weather conditions, and geography. So they often result in significant environmental, economic, and social impact. One of the important examples are spring tides, which my friend covered, and also king tides, which is the highest natural tides of the year caused by the moon's closest approach to Earth. We also call them perigee. Right, so what have we learned from this presentation? So, in conclusion, tides are a natural phenomenon linking Earth's ocean to the movements of the moon and the sun. They help shape marine ecosystems, coastal environments, and human activities. By studying them, we can better understand the forces that shape our planet. Uh, this knowledge also helps us to use tidal energy and to tackle rising sea levels and to also help us protect our coastal ecosystems. So tides highlight the connection between science and nature. They can also inspire us to respect and sustain the systems that support life on Earth.